Hello, people, and we have some brilliant news today. Genesis, the one that's been selling GBTC, has finally finished selling. They are out. That's right, they finished on my birthday, April 2nd, as a document has shown. That means no more gigantic dumps of Bitcoin from Grayscale. Yes, there's going to be still some Grayscale selling, of course, because some customers are going to exit and buy other BTC funds, but not these like gigantic dumps by FTX or Genesis. Now there might be other clumps of gigantic dumps that we don't know about, but the ones that we know about, it is done, my friends. It's done. Put a stick in it. It's done. And there were documents to actually prove this. And the weird thing is they actually used the proceeds of these sales to buy 32,000 Bitcoins, which is kind of weird, but we'll explain that in a while. Essentially, the company got permission to sell these Bitcoins on February 15th, and they sold them in batches lasting until April 2nd. And there was a really big batch that came out April 1st. So we were right, on the couple of days, the week that we had dumping, and then like the 2 days we had dumping, I think like earlier this week, that it was indeed what we suspected. It was Genesis. So bankrupt crypto lender Genesis has completed the sale of its Grayscale Bitcoin Trust shares and used the proceeds to purchase 32,041 Bitcoin, which is kind of weird because I think they kind of sold and then they like used some of those proceeds to purchase more Bitcoin, which I suppose brought the price a little bit back up. I'm not exactly sure. Maybe they sold on the market and then bought back OTC because they had to convert the shares into actual Bitcoin. The sale of GBTC shares was completed on April 2nd. On February 15th, Genesis received permission from New York Bankruptcy Court to sell nearly 36 million shares of Bitcoin, and it was valued at $1.6 billion, and about $1.4 billion was GBTC. So at today's price, the Bitcoin purchased with the proceeds of GBTC shares alone are worth 2.2 billion. So they somehow converted 1.4 into 2.2 billion, probably because of the rise in Bitcoin price since February. Now you're asking, what is Genesis? What are their nefarious plans with this Bitcoin hack? It's really not all that nefarious. They plan to actually give it back to the Gemini Earn creditors. So essentially, yes, they are going to give it back to the creditors as they should. So if you're with Gemini Earn, you're going to get your money back, probably in Bitcoin. So it looks like they're going to repay in kind rather than with cash. And you're going to get, hopefully, at least a large part of your Bitcoin back. I've heard that some people are actually going to get more than 100%. Not exactly sure how that works, but I think Gemini Earn people are going to be mostly made whole. But the good news for the rest of us is that Genesis can now stop dumping and stop terrorizing the market with their massive dumps. So we should be heading to a bull run soon because the selling power is gone. Unless, you have Celsius or Voyager or one of the various others coming in with other giant globs of Bitcoin to sell. But right now, knock on wood, we don't know of any more. FTX was an obvious one. They sold right after January. And Genesis was another big one, and they sold within a clump of a week or two, and they finished selling early this week. So there should be no more mass dumping after this. And with the BlackRock and Fidelity pressure, we should be going up from now on. Yes, there's going to be hiccups here and there, but unless another big corporation decides to come in, declare bankruptcy, and pwn us, which, by the way, is not impossible, we should be okay from here on out. So that's very, very good news for us. And now we have some news on the guy that caused all of this to happen. And his name is obviously Do Kwon. And he has been found guilty. Him and Terraform Labs have been found guilty of fraud by a New York jury. Now, this is weird because he's actually not here for the trial. He's actually still stuck in Montenegro, and they're deciding his fate, whether they want to extradite him or not to the United States of America. Of course, they did accuse and convict him of misleading investors. This is a civil case, and he's going to owe a lot of money about the stability of their so-called algorithmic stablecoin, it's UST, or Terra USD, of course, which was not very stable at all. And of course, they found him guilty in connection with a $40 billion implosion of the Terraform ecosystem in May 2022, which is eventually what dragged everything down. Let me remind you again, SBF was responsible for that implosion because he did take Terraform Labs down. However, if he didn't do it, someone would have done it sooner or later because it was very, very vulnerable. So jurors agreed with the SEC that Quan, under his direction, Terraform Labs deceived everyday investors, which he definitely did, about the nature of the supposed algorithm that kept UST pegged to the US dollar. You can try to algorithmically peg it all you want, but if you don't have solid backing, when everything goes down, your coin's going to go down too. Though Quan insinuated that it could automatically self-heal, like a phoenix, which it can't, in the event of a depeg, it actually relied on continuous trading activity, including large-scale trading online done by institutional investors. But that really doesn't help when everything is dropping like a rock. And of course, the SEC says, we are pleased with today's jury verdict holding Terraform Labs and Do Kwon liable for a massive crypto fraud. The defendants caused devastating losses for investors and wiped out tens of billions of market value nearly overnight, which it did. For all of crypto's promises, the lack of registration and compliance have very real consequences for real people. So obviously, the SEC is trying to use this to paint crypto into the securities corner. So SEC attorney Laura Meehan told the jury during her closing arguments on Friday that one of these institutional investors, Jump Trading, actually made a secret deal with Do Kwon and Terraform Labs to rescue UST. But here's the thing. Like, Terraform Labs tried to keep this information away from their investors and tried to say that they were repegging because of their algorithm, which was total BS. Kwon and his company, intentionally illegal, kept the firm's rescue mission quiet, wanting to instead use the repegging as evidence of the algorithm's effectiveness. The algorithm obviously was not effective at all. So basically, lawyers for Terraform Labs and Kwon attempted to wave Jump's involvement away as a regular part of their relationship with Terraform Labs as a market maker, but obviously they were trying to pump a lot of money to save Terra Luna. Obviously, it was not enough. They said that all reasonable investors knew that the algorithm that kept USD pegged to the dollar was not a magical machine, which it was. It was basically magic internet money, not MIM, but actual magic internet money, or a computer that functioned on its own, but instead minting and burning done by market participants, which it was obviously not. Unfortunately, UST and Luna were connected, so as UST fell, Luna started printing like crazy, and it dragged the entire crypto down as well. Of course, Terraform Labs said, we are very disappointed with the verdict, which we do not believe is supported by evidence. We will continue to maintain that the SEC does not have legal authority to bring this case at all, and we are carefully weighing our options and next steps, which means they might appeal, but I doubt they're going to be successful with the appeal. Of course, Kwon is stuck in Montenegro. He does not want to come to the United States, nor does he want to be extradited to South Korea, because I bet he will be guilty in both places, because he faces criminal charges in the U.S. and his native South Korea, which are tied to implosion of the Terra ecosystem. Both countries are currently vying for his extradition, but his final destination remains unclear because the Supreme Court has not decided where to send him. So the Do Kwon saga still continues because although he has been found guilty by a U.S. court, he is not actually here in the U.S. to serve his sentence. South Korea wants a piece of him too, as does the United States. Which country will get him? I'm not really sure. I think a lot of the investors that Do Kwon had was in South Korea, so like South Korea might eventually get him. But either way, Do Kwon is not facing a fun time because whether it's America or Korea, he's going to jail for a while and probably for several years. Maybe not as much as Sam Bankman-Fried, but he is definitely going to jail for some time. And he's going to be forced to cough up a lot of money. Obviously, Terra Luna is definitely dead at this point. Stick a fork in it. Wouldn't buy Luna C or Luna 2.0 or whatever. They cost investors billions of dollars, and I doubt you're going to get that trust back, even if he was not found guilty. Hopefully, the SEC is not able to use this case too much to convince people that all cryptos are securities, because that would be a giant travesty, but they're definitely trying to turn this case into that while avoiding the Ripple case where it said XRP was not a security. So I'm not really sure how they're going to weave that tightrope. But yes, Do Kwon is indeed civilly liable to all Terraform and Terra Luna investors. about the way he presented the information and how he tried to hide information, especially regarding Jump's involvement in trying to save Terra Luna from the investors. So that's the news for today. Let me know what you think. Like and subscribe, hit that bell notifications button. Thank you and have a nice day.